Let's get this going. Today we are talking collaborating with your clients using Karbon, and we will be talking today at length about client tasks overall. I am one of your hosts, so is Andy and Chetta. Andy, say hi.
Hello.
And if you don't know about us, you will know about us over the course of this webinar. We are going to do some housekeeping. If we sound like we're jarbled and funky, that's because we are on Zoom and you've got too many apps open. And you can see us. Hello. We can't see you, but we can hear from you if you go to the Q&A and or to the chat. So we'll be looking at those as we go through. So remember to close any apps, ask questions, and we will answer and have fun because we will, and hopefully you do too. So I'll move the mic a little bit closer that we can hear me. If you don't know about Karbon, you are going to learn about it in today's webinar, specifically around client tasks. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to karbonhq.com. You can reach out to any of the lovely folks. You can go to sales@KarbonHQ. You can go to support@KarbonHQ. You can have our emails and email us. We're happy to talk about it as well. So Karbon's where work gets done. You're going to see that. And today we're specifically going to see about how getting work done in the context with your clients, getting them involved in the workflow. Which is really, really cool. It's one of the things that when people start to use it, they get one of the biggest time savings they can get. So we're going to walk through a little bit of what it is overall, how to automate the client chase itself and leverage these client tasks, and then how you're able to collaborate in the moment with clients and some of our favorite tips and tricks along the way. So let's keep going. As we talk, we're going to go through, we got a little bit of slides. We're going to go into then also straight into the Karbon app, and we're going to see and play with it in real time. I will be the client. Andy will be the owner or the person.
This is right now, yeah?
No, not right now. I'm just saying, I'm leading us down the path, Andy, just like this slide right here.
Overexcited.
I know. So for many of you, when you go into the workflow, you're going to see and be able to create an area called a client task group of which you can create individual tasks. You will know it's a client task group because, Andy, why? What is in the client task group that marks it so people can see it?
Tasks.
It says client tasks in the black thing there on the left. You can see that. When you actually click on a client task, go to the settings, you can send an email, you can send reminders. We will get into the nitty-gritty details about that. And you can customize both the emails and the reminder emails. And there's a bunch of variables you can use. So that way you can programmatically set it on your templates and then forget it when you do in your work items. The great thing about client tasks is they can interact with you back and forth in email, or if they click on the email, it will take them to their own automatically created and generated client portal, where it is white labeled, so you can have your logo. It'll then bring in all the information that's only relevant to what the client needs to see and allow for you to interact back and forth to get whatever needs to get done. That is it in a nutshell. So the key there is we want to create client sections and client tasks. That's what we're going to be embedding in the workflow overall. In each one of those client sections, we can have any number of tasks, but when we send an email to the client, we will only allow you to send up to 5 reminder emails, up to 5. You may ask, why 5? Because we know that 6 hits spam. 5 is the right number. All right, so if
But don't worry. There is an opportunity for you to resend and renege your clients if needed.
That is true, but by doing that, you then avoid the spam thing. So we'll go through how to do that. If they click on an email, it will create that automatic client portal, and then they can collaborate with you. They can check off, they can comment, they can download, they can upload, they can do a whole bunch of cool stuff. The great thing is anytime they interact with the client portal, you will get a notification. It will either tell you what they've said or if they've marked it completed. Either one of those actions, again, you will know every time they're interacting and responding back to you. You can also put in automators, which is really, really cool. So when you put an automator in, when you send, you can do it by the sending of it or the completion, and you can take actions therein to signal what the heck is happening with your client. Really, really important. Let's keep going. When to use them? These are my personal favorites, and these are ones that I generally use them for. Getting a meeting scheduled is one of the most painful things that you can possibly do. Go get a calendaring app. We use Calendly, Meeting Bird. There's a bunch of them you can use. But you can use the client tasks to set up that chase, point them to an online calendar, and then do all the management for you. Onboarding, huge one. You're going to see that in an example today. Onboarding is generally pretty standard, but you can modify them for each individual client, but you can ask for the things you need. You can even embed in like type forms or survey monkeys. directly into a client task. You can lead them to the surveys themselves. There's a whole bunch of options there. Provide follow-up notes. Anytime you have an interaction with a client, face-to-face, maybe a telephone meeting, you need to follow up with a response of what you did. And so always, again, think about having a follow-up email that goes after the notes that you would have had with the client overall. Clarification. Let's say you're doing bookkeeping and you need to understand what sort of, how to classify unknown transactions. It's a good way to set up a little bit of a module for that for client tasks. Collaboration on getting the work done. We've talked about that. Moving documents up and down. It is for client tasks, when you use the portal, it is secure. 256-bit encryption, unique logins, a passcode on top of it. It is safe. And then email confirmations once you get the work done. So it's always good to follow up with a client and get them in the workflow throughout the process, because that's what ultimately, from their perspective, ultimately confirms the value they're paying for the work. So again, I'm super passionate about this. Keep going. Automation of the client chase. It's probably the most consuming part of the process when dealing with clients. So again, what we mentioned here before is when you go into the settings of a client task, you can specify exactly who you're going to send it to, who it's coming from. That could be the person who owns the work. That could be the person who owns the client owner. It could be a colleague. Again, you can specify how you want that to happen. You can have you can have the emails go out at a specific date. You can send them and push them manually if you so choose. And so again, there's a couple options there. The email that you can see in front of you, you'll notice in the gray underneath that, there's a bunch of variables you can use to be able to specify like a preferred name or full name, the client, what the work is that you're trying to get done, those types of things, really helpful in terms of scripting things in work templates. And then the reminders. You have 3 options for reminders. You can have urgent reminders, which nags the person every single day. You can have gentle reminders, which does an email reminder a week before the due date and then every day after the due date. Or custom reminders, my personal favorite, where you can set it on a cadence of like every 3 days or 4 days or so forth. And again, each one of those has their own reminder emails that you can specify. So some commonly asked questions regarding client tasks, because I know they're going to come up. So I'm just going to deal with them up front here. And then we can see if any questions come up a little bit later is, who can they be sent from? I just told you, work assignee, client owner, and any specified colleague that you want. That doesn't have to be you. That can be somebody else within the firm that you can classify as the person who's going to interact with the client. How can they be sent? They can be sent automatically and manually. Again, you have the desire to choose, and you can change it no matter when you want. You can cancel client tasks. Andy's going to show that. And we can also cancel notifications in terms of what's being done. Can you send client tasks to multiple people? You cannot. It goes to one specific person. So if you need to send it to multiple people, you're going to have to create multiple client task groups that you're going to send out. Or again, you might put someone as a point person, ultimately, because that's the way you want to get work done. What types of reminders can be sent? We covered that. There's 3. How many can be sent? 5. The magic number is 5. So if you said that I was going to do custom reminders and they're going to happen every 3 days, for 15 days, we're going to be covering them with reminder emails. What's the construction of the emails sent via client task? This is a really good, important one to understand. When you work with the client task, when you look at the email that you're able to modify, it has a subject and it has the body. After the body, we will place the client task group, which is just what you see in Karbon, that task area. And then after that, we will apply your signature that you have within Karbon. What happens if I send multiple client task groups from a single work item? It's cool. It just keeps adding and appending those additional client sections to that particular portal that they go to. So if you've got a long work item like client onboarding, it'll keep appending it, and so they can see where they've moved through in terms of that particular piece of work and their relationship. It is secure, I told you, 256-bit encryption. It's got a dedicated PIN. It goes to a specific individual, and you can pull and remove the access if you need to. And if they forget their PIN, they can go ahead and secure the PIN on their own. Again, it makes it easy on you. And then who receives a notification when a client task is sent? It's from who it was sent from. So if it was from the client owner, it's going to go to them. If it's the work assignee, it goes to them. Whoo! Andy, have I covered it all?
You covered it all. Do I even need to go into the app? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I will point out that all these questions and many more are covered in help.karbonhq.com. So just go there and type client tasks. You'll get a whole wealth of additional information. So collaborating with clients. Let's jump into that. So I want to point out a few things. When you are collaborating with a client and you're looking at comments inside of Karbon, please note the colors. The colors are very important. If you see blue, that means you're collaborating internally. If you see pink, you are collaborating externally. And so again, you will notice in client tasks, when you go to write a comment in there, you're having a conversation with the client because it's pink and it's going back and forth via email. You and your client can collaborate both ways. Again, whatever they say to you on a task in their portal will come back to you as a comment directly on that client task in the pink area, and you can respond back. When using a client task, everything in the group, and we're going to show you what the group looks like, is visible to the client. That is, all that information is used one way or another in an email, the portal, and the communications that are done. So be careful about how you write your actual client task group name and each client task themselves, because that is going to be visible. Likewise, please note that the work item name will also be displayed because that's at the top. And so is their actual client name, who you're sending it to. When you upload and download documents, it is secure. I've covered that now like 6 times, and so I'm not going to beat that horse any further. Okay, keep going. Tips and tricks. The email placeholder tokens are really helpful. The preferred name one is pretty obvious. You can say hi John versus hi John Doe because you're just using the preferred name versus the full name. I like using the work name because I can ultimately have the subject line refer to what we need to be getting done by using the work title. And the reminder number is really useful because, again, you can send up to, it'll send 5. So you can have a counter of how many you've sent, and that reminder number is what you use for that. So you'll see that a lot in the placeholder text that we use in the reminder emails. So those are some tips and tricks on tokens. And my next one is, if you want to further customize client tasks and the portal themselves, you can do that. It is an upcharge that we do because we actually have to go in there and do a lot of hand wrangling modifications, but we have a lot of people who ask and want to get it done. If you want to get it done, ask your account manager or email us at support@karbonhq.com, and you're able to do the things listed here. You can change the domain name, so you can have tasks.yourcompany, whatever that might be, .com. You can change the colors, the images, the text, the logo can be placed in the browser, and again, there's all sorts of stuff here. Again, it makes it more personalized and it makes it more unique to you. So if you need that, you can further customize. Let's get in and start playing with this. Andy.
Let's do it.
So everybody know I'm going to go in the background because I'm going to be the client. Andy is going to be the one leading the show.
I thought you'd never stop talking, Ian.
Sorry.
All right, so off of settings and in your work templates, as you know, you have all your work templates constructed. It's a way to standardize your processes, all the services that you might offer your client. Within these work templates, and this is just an example here. Whoops, I'm going to hop into this one actually. GST. This is an example of a standard process that you would use for a GST or HST return. And as you can see, there's a section of tasks for yourself, an internal set of tasks right here. And then here's a client task, which is great. And this is a good way of kind of creating a canned grouping of client tasks in the template, as Ian had mentioned during the slide where you can actually utilize the sending settings to construct canned messages and to construct the bones of the client task. So this is where you can click to edit the email and modify the email as you see fit. Again, the subject line, the email body, there's the available placeholders down below that you can go ahead and grab. So if you wanted to grab this contact name, you can certainly do this, put a dash and add that in, entirely up to you. As you can see, we're using preferred name. If you don't want to use preferred name, you can go ahead and delete that and insert something else, but highly recommend you use preferred names. In the contacts or your contact details, you'll have the ability to go to the details tab, click in and edit some additional information for your client. So Ian Vason, and my formal name is Andrea Anchetta. So if I were your client, you probably have me in there as Andrea Anchetta, but my preferred name is Andy with an I. So that's an option that you can add in there, and we'll pull that information into your client task, which is great. Once you've constructed your canned email, you can save it and then move on to the next bit. And this is where you can set your custom reminders at the template level. Of course, you can leave this completely blank and customize as you see fit when you create work from the template to the client. But why do that? Why don't just construct the bones of it? And also, as Ian had mentioned, you can edit the email here, which is great. Now, this is just one example of chasing your clients for information. Here is another example of multiple client tasks that you would be utilizing for a client onboarding. As you can see here, we have an onboarding checklist. Ian's favorite tool is linking somebody off to a calendar. I mean, so many emails are wasted or spent, so much wasted time spent on emailing back and forth on availability. So better off using a calendar app to allow you to have the client actually select a time that works best for them. Looking down below, there's another set of client tasks. So when you get to that point, after you've collected all the information that you needed from them in order to kick this off, then you proceed to the next set of client tasks. And this is where you're gathering additional documentation or access or any further clarification that you might need. So again, like Ian had said, you can create multiple groupings of client or multiple client task sections and have them grouped together in the portal when the client logs in. And we'll show you how that what that looks like when we get there. Anything to add there, Ian?
No, just, I mean, the thing to note is what I like to see in templates, and again, if you actually was to collapse this entire template down into just the sections, you'll see that, especially when you're dealing with trying to interact with the client, you should see a lot of sections where it goes client task, do something with the client task, do something with the client. Again, a lot of folks do not involve the client enough in the workflow, and you can see here, there's a lot of back and forth that happens in a lot that we do, and we want to make sure that we incorporate that in, and Karbon makes it really easy to do that.
Yeah, so let's see it in action. I do have a work template called Month End Close, and let's go ahead and I created the work from the template Month End Close, and it's for Potter Designs. As you can see, it's in plan status. It starts on Friday. There's all these tasks that are located here. There's also some automation. I noticed that Ian teased out automation. It's one of my favorite features in Karbon. So let's just kind of walk through the workflow. Essentially, I'm going to go ahead and collect all this information. You'll notice that this automator will trigger the work item. Actually, I'll take it back just a second. I do have a global automator that says when the start date or when the work start date is today, change the status of the work item from planned to ready to start. So I'm going to force that right now. And what you'll see is this task down below flips to ready to start. This kind of alerts me in my to-do list that this needs to be up and running, for which I can go into that work item and start marking my tasks off. So I get to that last task. The next set is really chasing my client for missing information. And again, this is where I'm going to go ahead and choose the send settings. I can find my contact, Nick Adams, which is great. And as Ian had mentioned, you have some options to choose who you want to send it from. I can choose to send it from the work assignee, the client owner, even another colleague. In fact, I might go ahead and add another colleague right here and just type in Ian. So I'm basically sending this client task on behalf of Ian. And what happens here is that any notifications that I receive from the client, whether it's them completing tasks, sending documents, uploading comments, asking questions, both Ian and the assignee of the work item, which is me, will receive those notifications, which is great. So it's a great way to ensure that certain team members are kind of notified, which is fantastic. Here down below is where you can decide whether you want to schedule the tasks or send the tasks now. And before I do this, I do want to schedule this workout. So let's go ahead and set up a schedule, and I'm going to go ahead and have it reoccur on a monthly basis using the previous period in the title below, and I'm going to go ahead and create. Because this is really important to know. When you have work that is on a schedule, When you choose the send settings, and again, I'm going to choose Nick, and I'm going to go ahead and choose a different colleague, which is Ian. When I send the tasks now, that is me taking control of when I want to send the client tasks. That allows me to edit the email, edit the tasks, edit the description, add in some comments, do whatever I need to do. If I choose to schedule the task to auto send later, say for instance today or maybe even tomorrow being July 3rd here in the US, what Karbon's going to do is, because this work item is on a monthly schedule, it's going to use the start date and determine how many days before or after Karbon should send out the client tasks automatically. So it's basically going to go with the schedule. Choosing the date of tomorrow, and because the start date is July 5th, Karbon's going to think, okay, great. It's 2 days before the start date. That means that every month I'm going to kick out these client tasks 2 days before the start date. If you're unsure what to do, and Ian could probably chime in on this as well, I prefer that you choose send tasks now, so own the sending of the tasks until you feel comfortable, and then go ahead and schedule the tasks. Ian, any thoughts on that?
Totally agree. I think it's always best to maintain control until you have everything settled and you understand what it's going to do and how it's going to do it, and then you move it to automation.
Another best practice tip is, definitely test it out with a few clients that are your best clients, maybe your happiest long-term clients that are willing to test this out with you. That way you can get a feel for how it works, how your clients work with client tasks, etc. So then you can go a little broader and include other clients. But I'm going to go ahead for this particular training. I'm going to send the tasks now.
I'm going to add one tip in there just on the backs of that. Yeah. I recommend to everybody, add your spam email into Karbon so you can, as a testing ground for you to do one run on a work item just to see what it does, and then use that with the client task to see what the interaction looks like. So that you have a way of being able to see how it ends up going back and forth.
Either a personal email address or even collaborate with another colleague, a team member, and use client tasks together using a personal email address. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. So in this case, I can go ahead and edit the email, but to be honest with you, Ian did such a good job in constructing this canned email, which looks fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and just go for it. Actually, I'm going to eliminate the client name. They know who they are. I'm going to go ahead and save that and then hit next. And this is where you would determine how you want your reminders to be set up. You can determine if you don't want reminders set up or you do want to turn it on. Again, there are your options. Read through gentle reminders, not so gentle after the due date hits. Entirely up to you. My personal favorite, like Ian said, is every 3 to 4 days. That's what I like to use, I like to do. And you can, for this purpose, I'm going to actually turn it off. Actually, I'll turn it on. You can also edit the reminder email. Again, I might eliminate the client name. I don't really need that, right, in the subject of the email. I could update this as well to add in some other additional information, entirely up to you. But Karbon will remember this canned email, reminder email, as well as that canned first initial email for all future work. When I hit save and hit next, Karbon's going to ask me if I want to go ahead and update the work the client has to be sent on the 3rd of July. Now, if you recall back, I said say send now, so I'm going to go ahead and send. And I can determine if I want this all done for only this work item or all work, so entirely up to you. The send date for the client task or just everything in the repeating work item, but only for this work item for now. So when I send, you'll notice that on the timeline, and give it a second, the email will appear, but you'll also notice that the work status automatically flipped to waiting for client, which is fantastic. It's letting Karbon know when you're looking at work that's happening across the firm or even across your team or work that's on your plate, that status is going to indicate or let you know that it's still waiting for a client, which is really helpful. Looking at the timeline, this is what the email will look like. All right. And this is great because Nick can actually reply to the email as he normally would if he wants to go ahead and submit the information, or he can click through to the client portal and manage the checklist of tasks that are assigned to him. Either way, as long as you get your information, right? So if I go ahead and I think Ian's going to play the role of Nick, but whatever Nick does when he logs in to the client portal, whether it's completing a task, asking a question, uploading documents, and I'm just going to quickly look right now. I'm going to do a sneak peek to kind of show this. I could play the role of Nick very easily. And as you can see, Ian's already done some items in here, but this is what the client task would look like to Nick. He can go ahead and mark this task as complete. As you can see, he added in a comment, what do I need to get clarification? He uploaded a document, which is fantastic. Anything that he does, I will get notified in Karbon. As you can see, I'm in triage right now. It's alerting me that I have new triage items. And there are those notifications, which is great. I can reply right in here. You'll see that it's in pink, right? Remember, whatever's in pink is visible to the client. Whatever's in blue is an internal conversation that's happening with your team members. But in this case, great if you could clarify X, Y, and Z. I could post that, look at the document or download that document, but ultimately I just want to clear that off because I'm going to get to the work item and complete out the things that I need to do, right? A little refresh here. I have multiple windows open. When you have multiple windows open or multiple tabs, might require a refresh for you. So just keep that in mind as well. And I love multiple windows and multiple tabs of Karbon open because it allows me to make sure I have my email open, maybe my to-do list open at the same time, but open up work and work through those items I need to work through. Now, as you can see, the status has changed to process. And the reason why is because all these tasks have been completed, which is fantastic. Now, one thing I want to make mention of, if the task wasn't completed and you've run through the 5 reminder emails, you certainly can go ahead and resend these tasks. Just click on the options menu, that's the 3 dots in the section header, and go ahead and resend client tasks. You'll have to go through the process again by making sure that it's sent to the from who you're choosing and choose the reminder emails again. It's also a great opportunity to switch out who the client task emails are going to be sent to. In the event that Nick Adams has left the firm or left the company and somebody else is taking over Nick, you can also, it's a great way to actually resend client tasks to somebody else entirely, like Abigail or somebody. In this case, Nick is perfectly fine, and I can go hit next, next, and resend those tasks, which is great.
One thing to note is if you resend the client task and it's to a different individual, the first person will be removed from having access to it.
Yes, great note. Thank you, Ian. The other thing to note, the comments will not flow through to future work. Karbon understands that this is all in service to getting this particular work done. However, the tasks, the descriptions, right, whatever you enter in descriptions, will flow through to future work items. If you add another task, additional information needed, right? These tasks, anything you add or subtract, whether it's tasks or even descriptions, those changes will flow through to future work just like internal tasks. It's that 14-day rule. Remember the 14-day rule. 14 days before the start date of any planned work item, it's going to look back at the previous work item and grab the checklist of tasks. That does include client tasks. So if you do have some specific information that you'd like from the client, you're better off using the comments to be descriptive on what type of documents you need, be descriptive on what type of clarification you need within the comments and not the descriptions, because each month you want to have a clean slate. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, so refresh your screen. Just one thing to note is whenever, the great thing about client tasks is it's active and present. So if you make changes to the description field, you add tasks on this, it will show up in the portal. And so you don't have to wait or resend it. It is actively updating it for when they go to make access.
That's right. And if you add a comment, it'll trigger a notification in your client's email to let them know that you've added a comment, which is great. Again, while looking at this client task portal, you'll notice that the work title is exposed. So is the client name. This is a demo account, but your company name would be listed here. Of course, the section header is listed here as well as the tasks. So just keep that in mind. If there are multiple groupings, and these were completed, there'll be another set of client tasks that will be exposed to the client. And this is if you send another set of client tasks like that client onboarding work template we showed you. Did I miss anything, Ian?
No, I thought that was pretty thorough.
All right. Any questions in the panel?
None so far. Either we're doing a great job or people are they haven't had their full morning coffee.
All right.
So overall, again, we've covered the overview of the client tasks, how important they are in automating the chase, how we're going to interact with them inside the workflow, and how we get them to ultimately help move that workflow along. And again, there's been a host of tips and tricks. Again, if you weren't capturing all of those, you can go to help.karbonhq.com, type in client tasks, and you'll get a whole bunch of list of things to do. So again, if you want to learn more about Karbon overall and how work gets done, you can go to karbonhq.com. One of the questions that did come up, just Andy, so we have it, was any thoughts on seeing colleagues in triage in terms of, I believe that's in terms of what they have and what they do. Right now, not something. I see it. I have a sick team member and I can't see their unprocessed work. So you can actually use that from going to work, and you can see inside the work Kanban view, you can look from filtering to be able to see what is on their plate overall. So again, you've got one right there, which is looking at colleagues. So the other item there is you can look at their tasks directly within their task list by going and toggling to their colleague view overall. So Andy's quickly going and showing you how you can see things. Here she's selecting from that my to-do list, changing it to actually my to-do list currently in here. And again, can see what has been allocated at a task level, but also where the work items themselves are at. And so there's definitely ways to do that. From a triage standpoint, no, directly from the email itself, because email is treated as something that's private versus shared versus public. And so again, if it was shared email, it would automatically be seen for everybody. But if it's private, it's maintained on theirs. But again, this is a great situation where if you have a feature request like that, they can go where to actually post that feature request so we can expand the product and make it better, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. They go to help and feedback, and where we show you a host of great popular topics. But down below, still can't find what you need, is where you would interact with a live agent. Just start a new conversation and someone will be readily available for you. Yeah. The other thing that I want to mention too, don't forget that Karbon sits on top of your email client. We don't replace it. So if a person is out sick, it might be a good idea for them to put an out-of-office message using their email client to direct all emails to somebody else within the firm or the company. And that way you'll get copied on those emails, or those clients would reach out to you specifically. But like Ian had said, you can go to their work view. And I highly recommend, if you haven't done so already, even set up some, work views, saved work views. In fact, if I own or if I manage the bookkeeping team, or if I'm a part of the bookkeeping team, I can create some filters to get to the information that I need. And as you can see, I'm looking at this week that's overdue. I'm using the sliding sorter to view the columns by assignee, and I could see if Ian is out sick, what I need to take care of from his perspective, what's due this week and what's overdue. That's at a high level, all the work items and the due date for that work item. But if I wanted to manage Ian's checklist of tasks, things that are due sooner than the overall work date, that's where I would toggle to his to-do list, look at his work and tasks. And if you care about notes and emails, you can certainly look at that too. And then filter. Again, my best practice tip is go narrow, then broad. Maybe you want to look into ready to start and in progress just to start off with, and then go ahead and expand if you like. I'm looking at everything that's by due date. If you wanted to, you can sort by work, you could sort by client. Maybe a client has called in to ask about the progress of some work that Ian's doing for that client. And this is where you can navigate to Ian's to-do list and sort by client to see all the things happening for that particular client.
There was one question about getting the templates that we showed. If you do want one of those templates, you can just go there. I put in the chat, but it's karbonhq.com/template-upload. So in case you need those.
Yeah, and if you do,
go ahead and request those there and we'll upload it to your file.
If you forget help and feedback, you could just choose best practice templates or type in the query. We'll bring you up a little support article, request 50 plus best practice work templates. Just create a little questionnaire or answer the questionnaire and we'll populate your account with those best practice work templates.
So that's it from the questions that we have today. And we're actually at the time limit. So, is there anything on there about the customization you spoke about? Yeah, that's, if you go to the customizations, there will be a support article. Go to client tasks and type in customization. You'll be brought to it as well. So it'll specify some of the details there.
Oh yeah, customize your client's experience of client tasks. There's also some great articles within the, if you go to all sections, so help.karbonhq.com, as you can see, scroll down to client tasks, and there's a quick little overview, how-tos, which is great, but also might be a good idea to send your client like a message, a canned email letting them know that you're going to be utilizing Karbon client tasks to work with them or try to get information from them. So we do have a canned email, client task, I think it's called email, or what is it called, Ian? Is it canned email? Oh, email template, I think it's called.
Email template.
Yeah, good one. Here we go. Email template to introduce your clients to client tasks. And you can go ahead and leverage what we've written and put it in your own language or your own voice, but it's an easy way to let your clients know at large that you'll be utilizing client tasks very soon because you don't want to catch them off guard. You might even want to send them their FAQs, client task FAQs, some commonly asked questions by clients, as to why have I got these why do I have a link for these tasks? What is Karbon? Why do I have to create a PIN? Do I have to enter my PIN each time? So this is helpful too, to send them this link. Any other questions?
No, I've got the other one I'm dealing with directly typing it, so we're good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for attending today's webinar on client tasks. It was a joy to hang out with you for the last half an hour. Ian, any closing thoughts?
No, I just think from client tasks, it's one of those things you just got to get going and use it. It's not that difficult to use, and definitely start picking some of your easier work that you might have just to either follow up and finish off the work, or to be able to capture information up front, like payroll, you need to get timesheets and whatnot. And so anytime you feel like you've done the same activity twice when dealing with a client, that's a good signal for when you should use client tasks. And so just give it a shot. Again, we gave you some tips and tricks on how to leverage it, and just start getting in action. You'll find it is a huge time savings, and also increases the level of service you're giving to clients. So there you go. Over to you, Andy. Finish us off.
Yeah, and a question from Katrina. Yes, there is going to be a recording of this. We will be sending this out to everybody who attended, as well as to anybody who registered but didn't attend. So no worries. You'll receive this recording as well as the slide deck. And with that, I'll just go ahead to the next. So we want to thank you. And again, here are our email addresses. If you want to reach out to us, of course, you can go ahead and reach out to our support at Karbon HQ if you want to get real time or quicker answers to your questions. Ian and I are in meetings most of the day, but you could certainly welcome to email us. But we thank you. And if you haven't seen Karbon and you'd love a demo, reach out, just go to karbonhq.com and request a demo, and an agent will be with you and schedule some time with you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.